It's midnight. Your eyes are burning, your body is exhausted, and you were supposed to go to sleep over an hour ago. Instead, you're reading about a hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship, or watching a 3-minute video about rodent migration patterns in Patagonia. Then comes the morning shame cycle. The alarm goes off, and you spend the first 10 minutes of the day blaming your lack of discipline or your poor sleep hygiene for your exhaustion. It leads to a persistent question. Why do we willingly sabotage our health to look at things we aren't even genuinely interested in? Psychologists point toward a mechanism called the autonomy paradox, where the value of the hours themselves begins to outweigh the content on the screen. Looking at this behavior as a desperate attempt to reclaim a day that felt out of our control changes how we see the habit. By shifting the focus away from character flaws and toward a search for freedom, we can finally identify the specific structural forces that keep the scroll moving. This phenomenon has a specific name. It originated in China as 报复性熬夜, meaning retaliatory staying up late, or revenge bedtime procrastination. For overworked professionals and parents, the daylight hours are dominated by meetings, responding to messages, and making decisions for other people. By the time you reach the bedroom, those dark hours are the only part of the day that feels genuinely, unambiguously yours. The pattern went viral in 2020 as the pandemic dissolved the physical boundaries between work and home. For millions, living at work became a global reality. Fatigue doesn't switch off our drive for autonomy. If anything, it makes that pull stronger. The more you've given away during the day, the harder you fight to take something back before you surrender to sleep. In this context, revenge describes a defiance against the increasing demands of modern productivity culture. Resolving these patterns requires a shift in focus toward our daylight hours. When we feel starvation for autonomy during the day, we tend to spend our freedom money on a digital slot machine at 1 a.m. We also bring our social anxieties into bed with us, using the phone to satisfy a need for relatedness that went unmet during the working day. This triggers a fear of missing out, which loosens our self-regulation in the evening and keeps us tethered to the lives of others to avoid feeling left behind. This compulsion often leads to rumination, the act of replaying negative social interactions or worries over and over in our minds when the lights go out. Researchers have mapped this as a serial mechanism. FOMO fuels rumination, which traps the individual in a loop that makes putting the phone away feel impossible, ultimately compromising sleep quality. To escape the distress of these repetitive thoughts, we often choose short-term rewards, like the quick hit of a social feed, over the long-term benefits of restorative sleep. The scroll functions as an escape hatch, a way to drown out the loudness of our own thoughts once the room gets quiet. Physically, this creates a state of hyper-arousal. Your body feels exhausted, but your brain behaves as though it must stay mentally active and responsive. Fast-moving videos and emotional headlines repeatedly stimulate dopamine pathways, keeping your stress-related neurotransmitters activated late into the night. The phone itself actively delays your rest. The blue light from your screen mimics sunlight, which tells your brain it's still daytime and suppresses the production of melatonin, your sleep-regulating hormone. These biological effects carry different weights depending on age. Research into adolescent sleep procrastination shows that puberty significantly increases light sensitivity, making evening screen time particularly disruptive for teenagers. While previous generations stayed up with books or television, those media had built-in endings, chapters, and credits. The infinite scroll was engineered specifically to remove those natural stopping points. This is an asymmetric war. You are one tired brain up against hundreds of engineers and billions in behavioral research designed to prevent you from stopping. To address the habit, you have to distinguish it from a medical condition. If putting the phone away leads to sleep within 30 minutes, your challenge is behavioral, not clinical insomnia. Attempting to will yourself to stop at midnight usually fails because your resistance is at its lowest point. The most effective strategy is to replace the scroll with a low-arousal, high-autonomy activity. A physical book or a chosen podcast can scratch the itch for personal time without hijacking your brain's chemistry. You can also rely on structural solutions, such as scheduled app blocking sessions or simply keeping the phone in a completely different room at night. Reclaiming your nights ultimately depends on how you manage your days. By building boundaries into your daylight hours, you remove the need to steal them back from your health at night.